Jake Murphy sat in his small dormitory room staring at his laptop screen. The numbers on his bank account seemed to mock him. He had exactly 300 credits left, and that would barely cover food for 2 weeks. His rent money had gone to help his younger sister back on the mining colony where he grew up. She needed surgery, and their parents could not afford it. Now Jake was in trouble. The dormitory fees were due in 10 days, and he did not have enough money. He had already asked for an extension twice, and the housing office had made it clear there would be no more chances. If he could not pay, he would have to leave the university. Jake rubbed his tired eyes and continued scrolling through the housing board. Most of the posts were from students looking for other humans. Those arrangements usually cost more because humans tended to want larger spaces and more privacy. He needed something cheaper, something that other students might not want. He had grown up on Titan 7, a mining colony where humans worked alongside Vortid miners and Zephyrian transport pilots. His father ran machinery repairs for the mine, and Jake had learned to communicate with different species from a young age. He was not afraid of living with aliens like some of his classmates were. The problem was that most alien students wanted to live with their own kind. Jake understood this. It was easier to live with someone who shared your culture and habits. But he was desperate, and desperate people could not be picky. He found a post from a Cathari student named Zeralyn. Jake had never met a Cathari before, but he knew they were supposed to be quiet and clean. That sounded perfect to him. He was tired of living in the noisy dormitories where his roommate played music until 3 in the morning and left dirty dishes everywhere. Jake read Zeralyn's requirements. No loud music. He did not listen to music much anyway. No strong-smelling food. He usually ate simple meals. No parties. He did not have time for parties. No emotional drama. He had no idea what that meant, but he was pretty sure he did not cause emotional drama. He decided to send her a message. Jake was not good with fancy words or complicated explanations. He kept it simple and honest. He told her he was an engineering student. He was clean and quiet, and he could pay his share of rent up front. He did not mention that paying up front would use most of his remaining money. He also did not mention that he was human, thinking she probably already knew from his name. After sending the message, Jake went to his engineering lab to work on his project. He was building a water purification system for his final thesis. The work helped him forget about his money problems for a while. He was good with his hands and good at solving practical problems. His professors said he had a talent for finding simple solutions to complex issues. When he returned to his room that evening, he found a reply from Zeralyn. She wanted to meet him at the campus coffee shop the next day. Jake felt a wave of relief. At least she was willing to talk to him. He had been worried she would reject him immediately. The next morning, Jake arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. He wanted to make a good first impression. He had chosen his cleanest clothes and even combed his hair properly. He bought a simple coffee and found a table near the window. He was not sure how to recognize a Cathari, so he watched everyone who came into the shop. He saw several humans, a few Vorthic with their blue skin, and some other aliens he did not recognize. Then he noticed someone who had to be Zara Lynn. She was tall, maybe 6 feet, with pale skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. What caught his attention were the patches of what looked like crystal embedded in her skin. They covered her arms, neck, and face in beautiful patterns. The crystals were currently a pale blue color, and they seemed to change slightly as she moved. Jake stood up and waved. Zeralyn? She turned toward him, and he saw her crystal patches shift to a brighter blue. He hoped that was a good sign. She walked over to his table, moving with a grace that reminded him of dancers he had seen on video screens. "You must be Jake," she said. Her voice was soft and had a musical quality to it. "I am Zeralyn. Nice to meet you," Jake said, offering his hand for a handshake. Then he remembered that not all species shook hands. He awkwardly pulled his hand back. "Sorry, I forgot that humans shake hands and other species might not." Zeralyn looked surprised. You are human. Jake felt confused. Yes, I thought you knew. My name is Jake Murphy. That is a human name. Her crystal patches shifted to a pale orange color. Jake had no idea what that meant, but it did not look positive. I did not realize you were human, she said quietly. Is that a problem? Jake asked. He had a sinking feeling that it was. Zarelyn sat down across from him. She seemed to be thinking carefully about what to say. I have never lived with a human before. I have heard that humans are very different from Cathari. Different how? Jake asked. Loud, emotional, unpredictable. She paused. No offense. Jake almost laughed. None taken? Some humans are like that, I guess, but I'm not. I grew up on a mining colony where we had to get along with lots of different species. I learned to be respectful of other people's ways. What mining colony? Zarelyn asked. Titan 7, in the Outer Rim. My father fixed machinery for the mines. We work with Vorthic miners and Zephyrian pilots mostly. I learned that different species have different needs and customs. Zarelyn's crystal patches shifted to a lighter orange. You have experience with other species? Since I was a kid, Jake said. My best friend growing up was a Vorthic named Grex. His family taught me about respecting personal space and not asking too many questions. I think I learned good habits from them. What about music? Zarelyn asked. I do not listen to music much. When I do, I use headphones. Cooking? I make simple food. Nothing fancy or smelly. I mostly eat protein bars and vegetables. Parties? I do not have time for parties. I am too busy with my studies and my job. Zarelyn looked surprised again. You have a job? I work in the engineering lab fixing equipment. It pays enough for food and basic expenses. Jake did not mention that he had just given away his savings to help his sister. Why do you want to live off campus? Zarelyn asked. Jake thought about lying, but he decided to be honest. The dormitories are too expensive. I need somewhere cheaper so I can stay in school. You are having money troubles? A little, Jake admitted. But I can pay my share of rent. I just need a place that costs less than the dormitories. Zarelyn was quiet for a long moment. Her crystal patches shifted through several colors, orange, pale blue, then a light green. Jake wished he knew what the colors meant. I am also having money troubles, she said finally. My roommate left, and I cannot afford the apartment by myself. I need someone who can pay half the rent and who will not cause problems. I can pay half the rent, Jake said. And I promise I will not cause problems. I just need a quiet place to sleep and study. You would not mind living with a Cathari? Why would I mind? Jake asked. You seem nice, and you are obviously smart since you are studying at the university. What does it matter what species you are? Zarelyn's crystal patches shifted to a brighter blue. Most humans I have met seem to think all aliens are strange or dangerous. Some aliens probably think all humans are strange or dangerous too, Jake said. But judging a whole species by a few individuals is not fair. I prefer to judge people by how they act, not by what they look like. That is a very mature attitude, Zarelyn said. My parents taught me that, Jake replied. They said that good. People come in all shapes and sizes. They sat in silence for a moment. Jake could see that Zarelyn was thinking hard about something. Her crystal patches kept shifting colors, and he found himself fascinated by the patterns. If we were to live together, she said slowly, there would need to be rules. What kind of rules? Quiet hours for studying. Clean common areas. No bringing strangers to the apartment. Respect for each other's privacy. Those all sound reasonable, Jake said. I would want the same things. You would not try to change how I live? Why would I do that? Jake asked. It is your apartment. 2. As long as we can both be comfortable, I do not care how you live. Zarelyn's crystal patches shifted to a steady blue color. I think we should try it, she said, for 1 month. If it does not work out, we can find other arrangements. Jake felt a huge weight lift from his shoulders. Really? You want me as a roommate? You are not what I expected from a human, Zarlin said. You seem honest and practical. I think we can make this work. Thank you, Jake said. I promise you will not regret this. As they shook hands, Zarlin had learned about human handshakes. Jake noticed her crystal patches were now a warm, golden color. He had no idea what that meant, but it looked positive. He was about to start a new chapter of his life, living with an alien who might become a friend. Neither of them knew how much they would learn from each other in the coming months. Zarlin stared at the empty bed across from hers and felt her skin patches shift to a dull gray color. The color meant worry, and she had good reason to worry. Her roommate Silthara had left 3 days ago for a transfer to another world. And now Zarlin was alone in an apartment she could not afford. The apartment was small, but perfect for 2 Cathari students. It had the right temperature controls for their crystalline skin, the proper lighting that helped their patches stay bright, and it was close to New Geneva University, where they both studied. Now the silence felt too heavy, and the rent was too expensive for one person. Zarlin walked to the window and looked out at the busy street below. Humans hurried past in their typical chaotic way, always rushing somewhere. Other aliens moved more slowly. The tall Vortic with their blue skin, the floating Zephyrians who never touched the ground, and a few other Cathar like herself. This colony world of Kepler 442b was supposed to be a place where different species could live together peacefully. But living together was different from actually getting along. She touched her communication device and played Silthara's message. Again. Her friend's voice was excited as she talked about the amazing opportunity on the research station near the galaxy's core. Zarlin was happy for her friend, but she was also scared. Without Silthara's half of the rent, she would have to move back to the cheaper dormitories on campus. The problem was that the dormitories were already full. The semester would start in 2 weeks, and she had nowhere to go. Her parents on the home world of Kether Prime had already spent most of their savings to send her here. She could not ask them for more money. Zara single quotes Lynn sat at her desk and opened her laptop. The University Housing Board was her only hope. She scrolled through dozens of posts from students looking for roommates. Most were from humans looking for other humans, or from different alien species seeking their own kind. She had never seen a mixed species roommate arrangement that worked well. Her people, the Cathari, were known for being quiet and thoughtful. They liked clean spaces, peaceful meals, and respectful silence. They communicated through the color changes in their crystalline skin patches as much as through words. Other species often found them cold or unfriendly, but that was just how they were. Humans, on the other hand, were loud and messy according to everything she had heard. They formed emotional bonds with anyone and anything. They talked during meals, played music in common areas, and had no understanding of personal space or proper social behavior. Her professors often spoke of human unpredictability as both a strength and a weakness, but Zarlin was desperate. She created a new post on the housing board. She tried to write it in a way that would attract the right kind of roommate, someone quiet, clean, and respectful. She listed her requirements: no loud music, no strong-smelling food, no parties, and no emotional drama. She mentioned that she was a Cathari studying xenobiology and that she preferred a peaceful living environment. After posting the ad, she waited. Her skin patches shifted between gray and pale blue as she refreshed the page every few minutes. The blue meant hope, but it was a very faint hope. The first response came from a Vortex student named Dexmore. Zarlin felt relieved until she read his message. He wanted to know if she would be willing to keep the apartment at freezing temperatures because his species preferred cold environments. She politely declined. The next response was from a Zephyrian, who asked if she minded if he brought his gas-breathing apparatus into the common areas. She declined that too. By the end of the first day, she had received 12 responses. Half were from species with environmental needs that would not work with hers. The other half were from aliens who seemed more interested in her being female than in being a good roommate. She deleted those messages immediately. On the second day, she received fewer responses. A few seemed promising, but when she contacted them for more details, they changed their minds. One Cathari student said he preferred to live with males only. Another alien said she seemed too demanding after reading her requirements. Zarlin began to panic. Her skin patches stayed gray most of the time now, and she noticed her roommate's empty bed every time she walked through the apartment. She had 2 weeks to find someone, or she would have to leave the university. All her dreams of studying different species and maybe becoming a xenobiologist would be over. She decided to make her requirements less strict. She edited her post to remove some of the rules about music and food. She even added that she was open to learning about other cultures. It was not entirely true, but she was running out of options. The next morning brought 3 new responses. One was from a human. Zarlin stared at the message for a long time. The human's name was Jake Murphy, and he was an engineering student. His message was short and simple. He said he was looking for a place close to campus. He was clean and quiet, and he could pay his share of rent up front. He did not ask any strange questions or make any weird comments. He just seemed practical. She almost deleted the message. Living with a human seemed impossible. What would her parents think? What would other Cathari students say? Humans were so different from her people. They were emotional and unpredictable. They did not understand the subtle communication of skin color changes. They probably would not respect her need for quiet study time, but Jake's message was the most normal one she had received. He did not want to change the apartment temperature or bring strange equipment. He did not ask personal questions or make inappropriate comments. He just wanted a place to live. Zarlin realized she was being ridiculous. She was judging Jake based on stories she had heard about humans, not on his actual message. Maybe he was different. Maybe not all humans were the same. She was also running out of time. In 12 days, she would have to move out if she could not find a roommate. She had saved enough money for 1 month of rent by herself, but no more. After that, she would have to go home to Ketha Prime and give up her dream of studying at the university. She looked at Jake's message again. He had included his student ID number and his program of study. She looked him up in the university directory. He was in his 4th year of engineering, had good grades, and no disciplinary problems. His photo showed a young human with brown hair and a serious expression. Zarlin made a decision. She would at least meet him. If he seemed too loud or messy or emotional, she could always say no. But if he was as practical and straightforward as his message suggested, maybe they could work out a living arrangement. She typed a response asking if he wanted to meet at the campus coffee shop the next day. She hesitated before sending it, knowing that this decision might change everything. Then she pressed send and watched her skin patches shift to pale blue again. Hope was a dangerous thing, but it was better than the gray of despair. The next morning, she would meet her first human. She had no idea that this meeting would change not just her living situation, but her understanding of what it meant to be part of a galactic community. 3 days had passed since Fenris arrived on the Wanderer. Jake thought things were going well. Fenris and his 2 companions, Kale and Thorn, were learning about human customs. They were fascinated by how humans work together without a strict pack hierarchy. But Jake was wrong about things going well. He was in the ship's cafeteria, showing Fenris how humans share meals when everything went bad. Another alien shuttle had docked with the ship. This one carried a different kind of Lunari. The new arrival was slightly smaller than Fenris, but his fur was darker and his eyes were mean. Zara made a frightened sound when she saw him. "Who is that?" Jake asked. "Ragnar," Zara whispered. "Pack. Leader from Northern Territories. He wants to be overall alpha." Ragnar walked into the cafeteria like he owned it. He looked around at the humans eating together, his lip curled in disgust. When he saw Fenris sitting at a table with Captain Rodriguez and Dr. Foster, He snarled. He spoke to Fenris in their language, his voice loud and angry. Jake could not understand the words, but the tone was clear. Ragnar was challenging something. Fenris stood up slowly. He was bigger than Ragnar, but Jake could see tension in his posture. The two alpha males faced each other, and the air in the cafeteria became thick with danger. What are they saying? Jake asked Zara. Ragnar says Fenris is weak, Zara translated. He says allowing me to stay with humans makes our pack look foolish. He challenges Fenris for leadership. Jake's heart sank. Can Fenris refuse? No, Zara said. Pack law says Alpha must accept challenge or step down. Ragnar continued talking, his voice getting louder. He pointed at Jake and made dismissive gestures. Other Lunari from his ship had entered the cafeteria, and they were laughing at whatever Ragnar was saying. Now what? Jake asked. Zara's ears drooped. He says the human male is too weak to deserve a Lunari female. He says I should be mated to a strong warrior, not a soft human. Great. Jake muttered. Fenris spoke back to Ragnar, his voice calm but firm. Ragnar's response was to bare his teeth and make a gesture that Jake assumed was an insult. Father is defending you, Zara said. He says you have proven your worth through kindness and courage. But Ragnar says kindness is weakness. The argument continued for several minutes. Jake could see that other crew members were getting nervous. Some of them had quietly left the cafeteria. Others were moving closer to the exits. Finally, Ragnar said something that made Fenris's eyes flash with anger. Fenris responded with a Karna roar that shook the walls. Then both alpha males began removing their outer clothing, preparing to fight. Stop, Jake said, stepping between them. You don't need to fight about this. Ragnar looked at Jake like he was an insect. He said something in his language that made his followers laugh. He says you are even smaller than he thought, Zara translated. He says one swipe of his claws could end you. Probably true, Jake said, but that doesn't matter. Ragnar spoke again, this time pointing at Jake's grandmother's quilt that Zara still wore around her shoulders. He says you are not worthy to. Claim a Lunari female, Zara said. He says he will take me as his own mate to prove humans are weak. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. Like hell he will. Jake, no, Zara said, grabbing his arm. You cannot fight him. He will kill you. Maybe, Jake said. But I'm not going to let him force you into anything. Jake looked at Ragnar and spoke clearly. I challenge you. The cafeteria went silent. Ragnar stared at Jake in disbelief. Even? Fenris looked shocked. Jake, Captain Rodriguez said, you can't be serious. Dead serious, Jake replied. If this guy thinks he can force Zara to be his mate, he's got another thing coming. Ragnar said something to Fenris, who translated for Jake. He accepts your challenge. He says it will be amusing to crush a human. Fine by me, Jake said. But I have conditions. Ragnar's ears perked up with interest. First, Jake said, if I win, Zara gets to choose her own life. No more talk about forced mating or pack obligations. Fenris translated. Ragnar nodded and spoke back. He agrees, Fenris said. What is second condition? The fight is not to the death, Jake said. First, one who can't continue loses. Ragnar looked annoyed when this was translated, but he nodded. Third, Jake said, the fight is by human rules. What does that mean? Fenris asked. Jake smiled. It means we use human methods of combat. No claws, no teeth, no weapons, just hands. When this was translated, Ragnar laughed. He said something that made his followers laugh too. He says humans fight like cubs, Fenris translated. He agrees to your strange rules. Good, Jake said. And one more thing. The fight happens in the ship's gym. We'll need the space. An hour later, the ship's gymnasium was packed. Word had spread through both the human crew and the Lunari visitors. Jake stood in the center of the room, wearing gym clothes and trying not to think about how stupid this was. Ragnar stood across from him, looking confident and amused. He had removed his shirt, showing muscles that Jake could never hope to match. His claws were retracted, but Jake could see the power in his arms and shoulders. "This is a bad idea," Dr. Foster said. "Jake, it's not too late to back out." "Yes, it is," Jake said. "I gave my word." Zara came up to him. She looked scared and proud at the same time. "Jake, you do not have to do this for me." "I'm not doing it for you," Jake said. "I'm doing it because it's right. Nobody should be forced into a relationship they don't want." "But you could die," Zara said. "I could trip walking down the hall tomorrow," Jake replied. "Life's risky." Captain Rodriguez stepped into the center of the gym. "Since this is apparently happening, I'll referee. Standard boxing rules apply. No hitting below the belt, no grabbing, no biting. Fight continues until one fighter can't continue or gives up." Jake and Ragnar faced each other in the center of the gym. Up close, Ragnar was even more intimidating. He was taller, stronger, and faster than Jake. But Jake had one advantage that Ragnar did not understand. Jake had been in fights before. Not many, and not recently, but he knew how to take a punch. More importantly, he knew how to keep getting back up. "Begin," Captain Rodriguez said. Ragnar came at Jake immediately, throwing a punch that would have knocked out most humans. But Jake was not where the punch was aimed. He had stepped to the side at the last second, letting Ragnar's fist hit empty air. Ragnar stumbled slightly, surprised by the miss. Jake used the moment to land a quick jab to Ragnar's ribs. It was not a powerful punch, but it was unexpected. Ragnar snarled and swung again. This time Jake could not dodge completely. The punch caught him on the shoulder and spun him around. Jake rolled with the impact and came back up, ready to fight. For the next 10 minutes, the pattern continued. Ragnar would throw powerful punches that Jake would mostly avoid. When Jake could not dodge, he would absorb the hit and keep moving. Jake's own punches were not doing much damage, but they were adding up. The problem was that Jake was getting tired. Ragnar was stronger and had better endurance. Eventually, Jake's legs would give out, and then it would be over. That was when Jake remembered something his grandfather had told him about fighting. If you can't win with strength, win with stubbornness. Just keep getting back up until the other guy gets tired of knocking you down. So that's what Jake did. When Ragnar landed a solid punch that dropped Jake to his knees, Jake got back up. When another hit sent him stumbling into the wall, Jake pushed off and came back for more. After 20 minutes, something changed. Ragnar was still stronger, but he was getting frustrated. His punches were wild now, angry instead of controlled, and Jake was still standing. "Why won't you stay down?" Ragnar growled in broken English. "Because I'm stubborn," Jake said, dodging another swing. "It's a human thing." Jake could see confusion in Ragnar's eyes. This was not how fights were supposed to go in Lunari culture. The weaker opponent was supposed to submit or be quickly defeated. But Jake kept fighting, kept getting back up, kept coming forward. Finally, Ragnar made a mistake. He threw a punch with too much force and lost his balance when Jake ducked under it. Jake stepped in and landed his best punch of the fight, right on Ragnar's jaw. It was not enough to knock Ragnar out, but it was enough to send him staggering backward. And for the first time in the fight, Jake saw something new in Ragnar's eyes. Respect. The docking bay doors opened with a loud hiss. Jake stood next to Captain Rodriguez, watching as the alien shuttle landed inside the Wanderer. Behind them, 20 crew members held weapons, ready for trouble. But Jake hoped there would not be any fighting. "Remember," Captain Rodriguez said quietly, "let me do the talking. We need to handle this diplomatically." Jake nodded, but his eyes were on Zara. She stood beside him, still wrapped in his grandmother's quilt. She looked nervous but determined. Her golden eyes kept watching the shuttle. "Jake," she whispered, "my father is very proud. He will test. You do not show fear." "I'm not afraid," Jake said. It was not entirely true, but he did not want Zara to worry. The shuttle door opened. 3 figures stepped out, and Jake's breath caught in his throat. They were much bigger than Zara. The first one was huge, maybe 7 feet tall, with silver fur covering his arms and chest. His eyes were the same golden color as Zara's, but they were cold and angry. This had to be FENRI stop. Behind them came 2 other aliens, both nearly as large. They moved like hunters, their eyes constantly scanning for threats. All 3 wore clothing that looked like it was made from animal, skins and metal pieces. Fenris walked straight to Zara. He spoke to her in their language, his voice deep and commanding. Zara answered respectfully, but Jake could hear her defending herself. Her father did not look happy with her answers. Finally, Fenris turned to look at Jake. His golden eyes studied the human from head to toe. Jake felt like he was being measured. For weakness, you are Jake, Fenris said in broken English. His voice was like rocks grinding together. Yes, sir, Jake replied. I'm Jake Martinez. You take my daughter. You claim her as mate. Why? Jake looked at Zara, then back at Fenris. Sir, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I didn't take your daughter. I found her hurt in a crashed ship. I was trying to help. Her, Fenris's ears twitched. Help? She was dying, Jake said. I couldn't just leave her there. You give her nest materials, Fenris said. You mark her with your scent. This is claiming, yes? I gave her a blanket because she was cold, Jake said. I didn't know it meant anything else. Fenris looked confused. He spoke to Zara in their language. She answered at length, pointing to Jake and making gestures. Fenris's expression slowly changed from anger to puzzlement. You help stranger? Fenris asked Jake. Stranger who is not your pack. Yes, Jake said. That's what humans do. We help people who need help, even if it brings danger to your pack. Jake thought about that. His actions had put the entire ship at risk, but he still could not imagine leaving Zara to die. Yes, Jake said. Even then, Fenris was quiet for a long moment. He spoke to his companions in their language. They seemed to be arguing about something. Finally, Fenris turned back to Jake. My daughter says you are a good male. She says you feed her, protect her, give her safe place to sleep. She says you ask. Nothing in return. That's right, Jake said. This is not normal, Fenris said. Males always want something. Territory, offspring, dominance. What do you want from my daughter? Jake looked at Zara, who was watching him with hope in her eyes. I want her to be happy and safe. That's all? Fenris's ears flattened against his head. You lie. All males want to breed. You claim her. Now you must prove you worthy. I'm not lying, Jake said. And I didn't claim her. I was just being kind. Kind? Fenris said the word like he did not. Understand it, Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. Perhaps we can resolve this peacefully. There's clearly been a cultural misunderstanding. Fenris looked at the captain with suspicion. You are pack leader. I am the captain of this ship, Rodriguez said. And I can assure you that Jake had no intention of claiming your daughter as a mate. Then why does she smell like him? Fenris asked. Why does she carry his nest materials? Why does she refuse to come home? Zara spoke up. Father, Jake is different. Humans are different. They help without asking for payment. They share without claiming ownership. Impossible, Fenris said. No species is that foolish. We're not foolish, Jake said, getting a little angry. We're just decent. When someone needs help, we help them. It's that simple. Fenris snarled. You insult my intelligence. You take my daughter from her home. You make her think she is your mate. Now you claim innocence. I'm not claiming innocence, Jake said. I'm claiming ignorance. I didn't know about your customs, but I'm not sorry I helped her, even though it causes this trouble, Fenris asked. Even though, Jake said firmly. Dr. Foster stepped forward. Mr. Fenris, if I may, we've been studying your daughter's language and customs. It's clear that there are significant differences between our species. What humans consider normal kindness, your people interpret as mating behavior. Kindness, Fenris said slowly. You give this word much meaning. To humans, kindness is very important, Dr. Foster explained. We believe in helping others, even strangers, even enemies sometimes. It's part of what makes us human. Fenris looked at his companions again. They spoke in their language for several minutes. Jake could not understand the words, but the tone was heated. Finally, Fenris turned back to the humans. My pack says you are weak, Fenris said. They say humans who help strangers will not survive long. They say I should take my daughter and leave you to your foolishness. Maybe we are weak, Jake said. But I'd rather be weak and kind than strong and cruel. Fenris's eyes flashed. You call us cruel? No, Jake said quickly. I'm just saying that different doesn't mean wrong. Your people have their ways, and we have ours. But that doesn't mean we can't understand each other. You still have not answered my question, Fenris said. My daughter claims you as mate. She refuses to come home. What do you say to this? Jake looked at Zara. She was watching him with such hope in her eyes. He knew what she wanted him to say, but he also knew it would not be fair to her. I say that Zara is free to choose, Jake said. If she wants to go home with you, she should. Go. If she wants to stay here and learn about humans, she should stay. But she should choose for herself, not because anyone forces her. Fenris's ears perked up. You give up claim? I never had a claim, Jake said. She's not property. She's a person. And people should be free to choose their own lives. Even if she chooses poorly? Fenris asked. Even then, Jake said. Freedom means the right to make mistakes. Fenris was quiet for a long time. He looked at his daughter, who was still clutching Jake's grandmother's quilt. He looked at Jake, who stood his ground despite being much smaller than the alien leader. Finally, he looked at Captain Rodriguez and the other humans. You would fight for this belief? Fenris asked. This idea that she should choose? We would defend her right to choose, yes, Captain Rodriguez said. Even against us? Fenris asked. Jake stepped forward. If I have to fight you to protect Zara's freedom, then I'll fight you. I'm not a warrior, and I'll probably lose. But I won't let anyone force her to do something she doesn't want to do. Fenris stared at Jake for a long moment. Then he threw back his head and laughed. It was a sound like thunder, deep and powerful. His companions looked shocked. You would fight me? Fenris asked. You, who are half my size and have no claws or fangs. If I have to, Jake said. Why? Fenris asked. She is not your pack. She is not your blood. Why would you risk death for her? Jake thought about that. Because it's the right thing to do. Because she's my friend. Because someone has to stand up for what's right. Fenris nodded slowly. Now I begin to understand. You humans are not weak. You are something else. Something we have never seen before. What's that? Jake asked. Stubborn, Fenris said. Stubborn! And kind and too foolish to know when to quit. He turned to his daughter and spoke to her in their language. Zara answered, and Jake could hear excitement in her voice. Fenris listened, then nodded. My daughter wishes to stay and learn about humans, Fenris said. She says you have shown her a new way of thinking. She wants to understand kindness you speak of. And you'll let her? Jake asked. I will allow it, Fenris said. But only if you prove yourself worthy of her trust. How? Jake asked. Fenris smiled, showing sharp teeth. By surviving the trial of understanding. If you can learn our ways as she learns yours, then perhaps there is hope for both our peoples. Jake looked at Zara, who was smiling brightly. What does that mean exactly? It means, Fenris said, that you have much to learn about being part of a pack, and I have much to learn about being kind to strangers. Jake was eating breakfast when the ship's alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed in the hallways, and Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the speakers. All crew to battle stations. Unknown ships approaching. This is not a drill. Jake dropped his coffee and ran toward his quarters. He had to make sure Zara was safe. But when he got to his room, she was not there. The door was open, and his grandmother's quilt was gone. "Zara!" Jake called out, but there was no answer. Jake ran through the ship, looking for her. Other crew members were running too, heading to their emergency positions. Nobody noticed Jake. Searching the halls, he found her on the observation deck, standing at the big window that looked out into space. She was wrapped in the quilt, staring at 3 large ships that were getting closer to the Wanderer. The ships were silver and shaped like wolves, with long pointed fronts and swept-back wings. "Zara," Jake said softly, "are those your people?" She turned to look at him, and Jake saw fear in her golden eyes. But there was something else too. Hope, maybe. She pointed to the ships and made a series of clicks and growls. "Family," she said in English. It was a new word for her, but she said it clearly. Jake felt his heart sink. He had known this moment would come, but he was not ready for it. "Are you going to leave with them?" Zara looked confused. She pointed to Jake, then to herself, then to the quilt. She made that purring sound and shook her head. "I don't understand." Jake said dot before Zara could try to explain. Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the speakers again. "Jake Martinez, report to the bridge immediately." Jake looked at Zara. "Stay here. Don't let anyone see you until I get back." But Zara followed him toward the bridge. Jake tried to make her go back, but she would not leave his side. She walked right behind him, clutching the quilt and making soft, worried sounds. On the bridge, everyone was staring at the big screen. The 3 alien ships had stopped just outside weapons range. They were not attacking, but they were not leaving either. "They're trying to communicate," Ben Thompson said. "I'm getting signals on multiple frequencies. Any luck translating?" Captain Rodriguez asked. "Not yet. It's completely different from any language we know." "Captain," said Dr. Foster, "I think they might be looking for survivors from that crashed ship." Captain Rodriguez nodded. "Makes sense. If one of our ships crash, we come looking too." That was when Jake walked onto the bridge with Zara right behind him. Everyone stopped talking and stared. Several crew members reached for their weapons. "Martinez," Captain Rodriguez said slowly, "what is that?" "Her name is Zara," Jake said. "She's the survivor from the crashed ship. I've been taking care of her." "You've been hiding an alien on my ship?" the captain asked. Her voice was dangerously quiet. "She was dying," Jake said. "I couldn't let her die." Dr. Foster stepped forward, staring at Zara with fascination. "This is incredible. First contact with an intelligent alien species." Zara moved closer to Jake when she saw all the people looking at her. She was scared, but she was also curious. She looked around the bridge, taking in all the technology and the humans staring at her. "She can speak some English," Jake said. "She's been learning." "Fascinating," Dr. Foster said. "How long has she been conscious?" 3 days, Jake replied. "And you didn't think to tell anyone?" Captain Rodriguez was getting angry now. Before Jake could answer, the communication system crackled to life. A deep, growling voice came through the speakers. It was speaking in the same language Zara used, but the voice was much louder and more threatening. Zara's ears perked up when she heard the voice. She moved away from Jake and walked toward the communication panel. She began speaking in her own language, making a series of clicks, growls, and whines. The voice from the ships answered her. Jake could not understand the words, but he could hear the emotion. The voice sounded angry and demanding. Zara's voice sounded defensive and pleading. "What are they saying?" Captain Rodriguez asked. Jake looked at Zara. She was pointing to him and saying his name over and over. "Jake, Jake." The conversation went on for several minutes. The voice from the ships got angrier. Zara got more upset. Finally, she turned to Jake with tears in her golden eyes. "They want me to come home," she said in English. "But I say no. I say I stay with Jake." "Why?" Jake asked. "Don't you want to?" "Go home?" Zara looked at him like he had asked the strangest question in the world. She pointed to the quilt around her shoulders, then to Jake, then to herself. "Jake give Ness," she said. "We mate now. I stay with Jake." The bridge went completely silent. Everyone stared at Jake and Zara. Jake felt his face turn red. "Mate?" Jake said. "What do you mean, mate?" Dr. Foster stepped forward. "I think there's been a cultural misunderstanding." "Jake, what exactly did?" "You give her?" "My grandmother's quilt," Jake said. "She was cold and scared, so I let her use it." Dr. Foster's eyes went wide. "A blanket. You gave her bedding materials." "So, Jake, in many animal species, sharing nesting materials is a mating ritual. You may have accidentally proposed to her." Jake stared at Zara, who was smiling and nodding. She thought they were engaged. "Oh no," Jake said. "Zara, I didn't mean. I was just being nice." Zara's smile faded. She looked confused and hurt. "Not mate?" she asked. "I mean, you're very nice," Jake said quickly, "but I was just trying to help you." The communication system crackled again. This time, a different voice came through. It was still growling and clicking, but it sounded older and more controlled. Zara's whole body went stiff when she heard this new voice. She dropped to one knee and lowered her head. She spoke in a respectful tone, very different from how she had talked to the first voice. "What's happening now?" Captain Rodriguez asked. "I think we just met their leader." Dr. Foster said that the conversation between Zara and the new voice was longer and more complex. Zara kept pointing to Jake and saying his name. She held up the quilt and spoke passionately about something. The leader's voice got more and more interested. Finally, Zara stood up and turned to Jake. "Pack leader want to talk to Jake," she said. "Pack leader?" Jake asked. "My father," Zara said. "Fenris, you want to meet Jake? You want to know if Jake's strong enough for Zara?" Jake felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. "Strong enough for what? To be mate," Zara said simply. "Father say Jake must prove worthy, or Jake must fight." Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. "Fight? What kind of fight?" Zara made a gesture with her claws. "Fight to death. Winner gets Zara." "Absolutely not," Captain Rodriguez said. "We're not letting anyone fight to the death over a misunderstanding." But it was too late. The communication system was already crackling with new messages. The alien ships were moving closer. Jake could see smaller ships leaving the larger ones, heading toward the Wanderer. "They're coming aboard," Ben Thompson said. "Multiple ships approaching our docking bays." "Jake," Zara said, grabbing his hand. "Father very traditional. He not understand human ways. He think you claim me, so you must prove you worthy." "But I didn't claim you," Jake said. "I was just being nice." "I know," Zara said sadly. "But father not know, and Pack not know. They think you steal me from home and make me your mate." Jake looked around the bridge at all the worried faces. Outside the window, he could see the alien ships getting closer. He had tried to save one alien girl, and now he might have started an interstellar war. "What happens if I refuse to fight?" Jake asked. Zara's ears drooped. "Then father take me home. And Pack think humans are weak and dishonest. They might attack ship." Jake realized he had a choice to make. He could let Zara go and hope her people would leave peacefully. Or he could try to explain the misunderstanding and risk making things worse. But as he looked at Zara's scared face, Jake knew he could not abandon her. Even if it meant facing an alien warrior in combat, he would not let her be forced to do something she did not want to do. "Okay," Jake said. "I'll meet with your father. But I'm going to make him understand that humans don't work the same way as your people." Zara smiled, But Jake could see the worry in her eyes. She knew her father better than Jake did. And she knew that Fenris would not be easy to convince.